The girl in the trash. Rain fell hard on the metal roofs of the alien city. Neon lights flickered in the dark alleys and garbage floated through the flooded streets. The air smelled of oil, chemicals, and something rotten. Jace, a young human, delivery worker, pulled his hood tighter as he stepped into a narrow street behind the main market. His shoes splashed through puddles. He didn't like this shortcut, but he was late and his boss would cut his pay again. As he passed by a rusted dumpster, he suddenly stopped. He had heard something. Very soft. A whimper. A cry. He turned back, slowly. The sound came again. He moved closer, careful, and peeked behind the dumpster. There, lying in a pile of wet trash, was a small figure. A girl. Not human. Her skin was pale violet, covered in mud and dirt. Her silver-white hair was full of filth, and one of her legs was twisted under her body. Her clothes were just rags, barely covering her. Her large, glowing eyes looked up at him, full of fear. Jace froze. People had warned him. They said sick. Aliens were dangerous. Some carried alien diseases, some were crazy. Some were just traps set by gangs. But this girl, she didn't look dangerous. She looked broken. He took a slow step forward. She tried to crawl away, but she was too weak. She whimpered again, louder this time. Her tiny hands reached for something, maybe for help, maybe just to protect herself. Jace knelt down. "Hey," he said softly. "I won't hurt you." The girl stared at him. Her lips moved, but no words came out. From the corner of his eye, Jace saw two alien shopkeepers watching from their store. One of them yelled, "Leave her, she's cursed, she's filth." The other added, "Let the street cleaners take her. Don't get involved, human." Jace looked back at the girl. She was shaking from the cold. Rain poured down her small body. Her violet skin was turning a strange bluish color. "No," Jace whispered. "No one deserves to be left like this." He took off his jacket and wrapped it around her carefully. She flinched at his touch but didn't resist. Her skin was freezing. She was burning with fever. "I'm taking her," Jace told the shopkeepers. "You'll regret it," one shouted. Jace didn't answer. He lifted the girl gently into his arms. She was lighter than he expected. Too light, like she hadn't eaten in days. She rested her head on his shoulder, still shaking. Her tiny fingers clutched the edge of his jacket. As he walked, he felt dozens of eyes watching him. Some looked with disgust, others with pity. No one offered to help. He kept walking. Past the market, past the transit station. Up the old stairs to his tiny apartment on the 4th floor. He unlocked the door, pushed it open with his foot, and stepped inside. The room was small, just one bed, a table, and a tiny kitchen. He placed her gently on the bed. She didn't move. He rushed to the bathroom, turned on the heater, and let the hot water run. Steam filled the small space. Then he returned to her. She was still shaking, her glowing eyes half closed. "Let's clean you up, yeah?" he whispered. She didn't speak, but when he reached out a hand, she gave the tiniest nod. Jace helped her to the bathroom. She could barely stand, so he supported her gently, trying not to hurt her. He left her inside and gave her space. "Take your time," he said through the door. "The water's hot, it'll help." Minutes passed, then 10, 15. Finally, the door creaked open. She stepped out, wrapped in a towel. Her hair was now white and silky. Her skin glowed slightly like moonlight. Under the dirt, she had faint markings across her arms, like tattoos, but they shimmered with light. She looked at him, eyes wide but calmer now. "Safe?" she asked softly. Her voice was small, like wind through trees. Jace smiled gently. "Yes, you're safe now." For the first time, the alien girl smiled back, just a little, just enough. And in that moment, Jace knew. He had done the right thing. But deep in the back of his mind, one thought echoed. Why was she left to die in the trash? And who would come looking for her now? Steam filled the small bathroom like a fog. Warm drops of water echoed softly against the tiles. Jace stood just outside the door, arms crossed, waiting. He had given the alien girl a fresh towel and one of his old t-shirts. She had nodded shyly before closing the door. He didn't hear anything for a long time. No splashing, no movement. He knocked gently. "Are you okay in there?" There was silence. Then a soft voice came through the door. "Is it safe?" "Yes," he said. "It's just water. It won't hurt you, it's warm. Try it." Another minute passed. Then he finally heard the sound. Light footsteps. The girl stepped into the shower slowly, then the splash of water. He smiled. At least she was trying. Inside, the alien girl stood frozen under the hot water. She had never felt anything like this. On her world, water was rare. They used chemical sprays to clean, hot water flowing from a wall. It felt like magic. Her skin began to shine again. The glowing tattoos along her arms lit up in soft waves. The dirt and blood swirled away, revealing the true color of her body, light purple with pale gold veins underneath. She looked at her hands. They didn't shake anymore. Outside, Jace started heating some food. His apartment was tiny, but he had a working stove and a can of soup. He opened a drawer and found a spoon and cup. Nothing fancy, but warm food and clean water were enough, for now. The bathroom door creaked open. She stepped out slowly. Her white hair was now clean and brushed, falling like silk across her shoulders. Jace's t-shirt was far too big for her, reaching past her knees. The towel was wrapped around her shoulders like a blanket. She looked at Jace with wide, glowing eyes, unsure. "You look better," he said with a small smile. "Do you feel better?" She nodded once. "Come, eat something." He placed the hot cup in front of her on the small table. She sat carefully. Her movements were slow and unsure, like she didn't know how to sit on a human chair. She sniffed the soup first, then dipped the spoon and tasted it. Her eyes widened. She ate again, faster this time. Jace sat across from her. "What's your name?" She hesitated, then answered softly. "Rinya." "Nice to meet you, Rinya. I'm Jace." She looked at him for a long moment. Why help?" Jace didn't answer right away. He looked down at his hands. "Because I've been left behind before. Not in the trash, but close enough. I know what it feels like when no one cares." Rinya blinked. Then slowly, she placed her small hand over his. Her fingers were warm now. Suddenly she flinched. Her eyes darted to the window. Jace followed her gaze. Outside, across the street, a small black drone floated silently. It hovered for a few seconds, scanning the building. Then it zipped away into the dark sky. Rinya's whole body tensed. She dropped the spoon. "What was that?" Jace asked. "Finder drone," she whispered. "They're looking for me." Jace stood quickly and pulled the curtain shut. "Who is looking for you?" Rinya hugged her towel tighter. "Bad people. Lab people. They made me. Tested me." Jace stared at her. "You were in a lab? What kind of lab?" She didn't answer. Instead, she rolled up the sleeve of the oversized t-shirt. Underneath, on her upper arm, was a strange mark. It looked like a scarred symbol, half burned, half branded. "It hurt," she whispered. "They said I was broken. Useless." Jace felt anger rise in his chest. "You're not useless. You're not broken either." Rinya looked down. A single glowing tear slid down her cheek. "You're safe now," he said. "No one's taking you again." But deep down, he wasn't sure. If they had drones out, that meant they were close. They knew she had escaped. And now that she was with him, he was part of it too. Jace sighed and sat beside her. "We'll figure this out. Together." Rinya leaned against his side. Her head rested on his arm. She was warm now. Clean. Fed. But the fear had not left her eyes. Outside, rain still poured over the city. But inside that small apartment, something had changed. She was not trash anymore. She was someone. And Jace had just made the most dangerous promise of his life. He would protect her no matter what. Night came quietly. The city outside buzzed with lights and low engine sounds. Rain had stopped, but the air was still wet and heavy. Inside the apartment, Jace sat on the floor next to his bed. Rinya was already asleep, curled under a blanket. Her breath slow and soft. Jace didn't sleep. His eyes stayed on the door. He kept hearing the whir of that black drone in his head. Its glassy eye had scanned his building. It had seen him. He checked the locks again. Then he closed the window fully and pulled the curtain tighter. But just as he sat down again, a low humming sound made his stomach twist. He crawled to the window and peeked through a tiny gap. A sleek, floating black van had stopped across the street. Its lights were off. Two shadows stepped out, tall and moving too smoothly to be normal people. Their skin looked pale, almost rubber-like, and their eyes glowed red. Jace's heart began to race. He turned and looked at Rinya. She was still sleeping, but her body was stiff now, like she could feel the danger even in her dreams. "Rinya," he whispered. "Wake up." She blinked, then sat up quickly. Her eyes were wide. "They're here," she whispered. "Who?" She didn't answer with words. She just pointed out the window. Jace looked again. The two strange figures were scanning doors with a glowing device. They were only 2 buildings away. "Come on," Jace said. "We have to go." Rinya jumped up, the blanket falling from her shoulders. She was still wearing his oversized shirt, but she moved fast now. Jace opened the closet and pulled out an old backpack. He stuffed it with water bottles, food bars, and his ID chip. "Put this on," he said, handing her a hoodie. "Keep your head down." Rinya slipped into the hoodie quickly. It covered her markings and her silver hair. Jace led her to the back window. The fire escape was rusty and narrow, but it would take them to the alley. They climbed out quietly. As they reached the ground, Rinya suddenly stopped. She pulled on Jace's sleeve and pointed to the sky. Above them, 2 drones hovered in the dark, their red lights blinking softly. "We have to run now," Jace said. They ran through the wet streets, their footsteps splashing through leftover puddles. The city was quieter now. Most shops closed and people gone. Only a few streetlights flickered and some garbage bots rolled by slowly. They turned into a tunnel that led to the old train station. "This way," Jace said. "I know someone." "Who?" Rinya asked, her breath short. "An old friend." She doesn't ask questions. At the far end of the tunnel, they reached a broken door. Jace knocked 3 times, paused, then knocked once more. A small panel slid open. A red eye peeked out. "Who's that?" a gruff voice asked. "It's Jace. I need help." The door creaked open. A short, wide alien woman stood behind it, holding a plasma cutter. Her name was Laura. She had orange skin and wore a grease-stained coat. "You've got guts, human," she said. "Bringing trouble to my place." I didn't know where else to go. Laura's eyes narrowed as she looked at Rinya. "That's no ordinary girl. She's not dangerous, but others want her gone." Laura sighed and stepped aside. "Get in before I change my mind." Inside was a repair shop filled with old machines, tools, and robot parts. It smelled like metal and smoke. "Stay here," Laura said. "I'll block the scanners." She pressed a button. A blue pulse spread through the room. An old jamming field. Rinya sat down, still shaking. Jace crouched beside her. "You okay?" "I remember now," she whispered. "What they did to me." Jace waited. "They took me from a ship. I was just a child. They ran tests, hurt others. We were numbers to them." She looked into his eyes. "I escaped when the ship crashed. I was the only one who got out." Jace felt a deep chill run through him. "Who were they?" Rinya reached into the hoodie pocket and pulled out a small chip. "I stole this. It has everything. Names, videos, data. If they find me, they'll erase me." Jace stared at the chip. "Then we don't let them find you," he said. "We show the galaxy what they did. But they'll come for us." Jace nodded. Let them. He looked toward the door. He wasn't scared anymore. If this little alien girl had the courage to escape monsters, then he could face them too. He reached for her hand and held it tight. We're not running anymore. We fight. Laura's workshop was silent except for the soft hum of the jamming field. Strange machines filled the shelves, half-fixed drones, blinking circuits, and dusty parts from forgotten tech. The air smelled like burned wires. Jace sat on a low metal bench. Rinya rested beside him, still wearing the oversized hoodie. Her hands gripped the data chip tightly. Laura paced the room, her boots clanking against the floor. "You've got something big there," she muttered. "If they sent hunters after you, this chip must hold heavy secrets." "We need to open it," Jace said. Laura stopped. "You got a reader?" "No," Jace admitted. "But I hoped you might." Laura sighed and walked to the back wall. She pulled out a small silver case, flipped it open, and placed a dusty old reader on the table. It beeped to life. "Put the chip in," she said. Rinya stepped forward slowly. Her hands were trembling. She placed the chip into the slot. The reader blinked, then projected a hologram in the air. Jace and Rinya stared. Dozens of files appeared: video logs, reports, medical scans, test records. At the top, a name glowed in red: Project Echo Bloom. Jace scrolled through the videos. One showed alien children, thin, scared, covered in wires, locked in glowing cages. Another showed scientists in white suits, speaking in cold, flat voices. Then a video opened of Rinya. She looked even smaller, barely 10 years old. Tubes ran through her arms. Her eyes were dull. A voice said, "Subject 12 shows no signs of vocal function. Memory wipe appears successful. Physical tests continue. Tomorrow." Rinya turned away from the screen. Jace stood beside her. "We don't have to watch more." She shook her head. "I want to." He could see the pain in her eyes, but also the fire. She wasn't just scared anymore. She was angry. Suddenly she flinched and grabbed her back. "What's wrong?" Jace asked. She looked at him. "It burns. The mark." "Let me see." She hesitated. She then turned around and slowly lifted the hoodie. Jace's eyes widened. Between her shoulder blades was a strange glowing scar. It looked like a flower, sharp-edged and mechanical. The lines pulsed faintly with golden light. Laura stepped closer and gasped. "That's a control seal." "A what?" Jace asked. "They use these in illegal cloning labs," Laura explained. "It's not just a scar, it's a tracker, a brand, and maybe worse. If it activates, she could lose control over her own body." Rinya trembled. "They said it made me special." "No," Laura said. "It made you property." Jace clenched his fists. "Can we remove it?" "Maybe, but it's risky. One mistake and—" "I want it gone," Rinya said. Her voice was stronger now, clear. Laura gave her a long look, then nodded. "There's a chance, but I'll need special tools. They're locked up in the undermarket." "I'll go with you," Jace said quickly. Laura shook her head. "Too dangerous. They're already watching for you." "I can't stay here," Jace argued. "I'll go," Rinya said softly. Both adults turned to her. "It's my body, my mark. I'll go with her. I'm not scared anymore." Jace hesitated, then he nodded. "But I'm coming too." "That's final," Laura grumbled. "Fine. We go at nightfall. Less eyes." Later, under the cover of darkness, the three moved through the old sewer tunnels beneath the city. The undermarket was hidden deep below, where illegal tech, stolen, goods and secrets were traded for credits or silence. They reached a large door with a flickering sign, "No questions asked." Inside, the undermarket was loud and chaotic. Creatures from dozens of species shouted, bargained, and argued. Neon lights flashed from stalls selling weapons, implants, and forbidden upgrades. Laura led them through the crowd, eyes scanning. A hooded seller waved her over. "You again, still fixing ghosts?" "Looking for a seal-breaker kit," Laura said. The seller raised an eyebrow. "Old tech. Pricey. Laura pulled out a chip. This enough? The seller scanned it, then smiled. Deal. He handed her a small black box with tools and a thin glowing wire, but just as they turned to leave, Rinya froze. Two tall figures had entered the market, wearing dark cloaks and red-tinted goggles. Hunters. They're here, she whispered. Run, Jace shouted. They pushed through the crowd. Jace grabbed Rinya's hand and didn't let go. A laser shot blasted near their feet. Screams broke out. Chaos exploded. They dove into a side tunnel. Laura sealed the door behind them with a welding torch. Jace turned to Rinya, his heart pounding. Are you okay? She nodded. We have the tools now, let's end this. Jace looked at the glowing mark on her back, still pulsing like a ticking clock. We're going to cut that thing out, he said. And when we do, they'll lose all control. The city was not sleeping. Even in the deep hours of the night, lights flickered and machines moved. High above the streets, giant towers blinked red, hiding secrets behind mirrored glass. But in the dark corners below, 3 figures hurried through. Back alleys, Jace, Rinya, and Laura. They had what they needed, the seal breaker kit. But time was short. We'll use the old service tunnel, Laura said, guiding them down into another narrow stairway. It connects straight to my shop. Safe, unless they're already waiting. Jace helped Rinya down the steps. Her body was weak again. The glow from her back mark was stronger now, pulsing faster. It's activating, she whispered. They're close. Jace pulled her closer. Not for long. We'll get that thing out of you. Suddenly, a red light flashed above. A siren wailed. A voice echoed through the walls, flat and robotic. Subject 12 detected. Prepare for recovery. Laura cursed. They hacked the city grid. They know where we are. From the shadows behind them, heavy footsteps echoed. Jace turned and froze. 3 hunters stepped into view. They were tall, metal-skinned, with long arms ending in clawed gauntlets. Their faces were blank masks with glowing red eyes. One of them lifted an arm. A scanner blinked. Biotrace locked. Subject confirmed. Use minimal force. Jace grabbed Rinya's hand. Run! They raced through the tunnel. Laura pulled out a small device from her coat and tossed it behind them. A bright flash exploded. Stunning light and thick smoke filled the air. They turned a corner, then another. Jace's lungs burned, but he didn't stop. The tunnel opened into an abandoned train station, dark and full of rubble. Broken signs still hung from the ceiling. The air smelled of mold and rust. There, Laura said, pointing to an old elevator shaft. That's our way up. They rushed inside. Laura slammed her fist into the control panel. The shaft groaned, then began to rise slowly, but then clang. The hunters had followed. One leaped across the gap and grabbed the bottom of the elevator. The entire platform shook. Hold on, Jace shouted. The hunter began climbing up the side. Laura reached into the seal breaker kit and pulled out a small plasma torch. She handed it to Jace. Cut the cable when we jump. You understand? What? No. That'll drop it on them. Exactly, she said. You want to stop them, right? Jace hesitated, then nodded. The elevator reached the top. They leaped onto the landing. Jace turned back and aimed the torch at the thick steel cable. The heat glowed orange, then the cable snapped. With a loud twang, the elevator fell. The hunter's red eyes widened, then disappeared into the dark. Boom! The shaft exploded with sound and dust. Silence followed. For a moment, no one moved. Then Jace turned to Rinya. She was pale, breathing hard. The glowing mark on her back was now flashing like an alarm. It's going to trigger, she whispered. Laura grabbed the kit. We do it now. No time left. They entered the workshop. Laura slammed the door and activated the jamming field again. Rinya lay down on the table. Her body trembled, but she didn't cry. I'm ready, she said. Laura opened the box and activated the fine blade. It buzzed with energy. Jace stood beside Rinya and held her hand. I'm here, all the way. Laura looked serious. If I mess this up, The energy inside that mark could burn her spine. "You won't mess up," Rinya said. Laura began. She sliced gently along the mark. It hissed and sparked. Strange symbols rose to the surface, then faded. Rinya gasped in pain, but didn't scream. Jace squeezed her hand. "Stay with me. You're strong." The blade moved carefully. Bit by bit, the flower-shaped mark peeled back like old metal. Underneath, something shimmered, a small black chip, deeply embedded. Laura reached for her extractor. But before she could pull it free, Rinya's body jerked. Her eyes glowed bright white. She gasped, and her limbs tensed. "It's activating," Laura shouted. "Get it out!" Jace cried. Laura plunged the extractor in. The chip sparked, then shattered. Rinya screamed and went still. Silence. Laura froze. Jace leaned close. Then, Rinya blinked. Her body relaxed. The glow faded. "It's gone," she whispered. Jace let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. "You're free." Rinya looked up at him, eyes filled with tears. "I feel like myself again." Laura smiled. "We did it." But Jace turned toward the door. His face had changed. "They won't stop," he said. "Not now. Not after this." "We hit them first," Laura said. "Use that data chip. Burn their whole empire down." Jace nodded slowly. "We started by saving one girl in the trash," he said. "Now, we're going to save a whole galaxy." The morning sky was gray, heavy with smoke and clouds. Hover cars passed above like ghosts, unaware of what had just happened below the surface of the city. In Laura's workshop, the lights were dim. Rinya lay resting on a small cot. Her breathing was steady now. The glowing mark on her back was completely gone. Just a faint scar remained. Jace sat beside her, watching over her like a quiet guardian. His mind wasn't calm. Not anymore. The chip in his pocket weighed heavy. Laura walked in, wiping grease from her hands. "You should sleep." "I can't," Jace said. "That file, it's not just evidence. It's a weapon. We need to use it." Laura nodded. "You're right. We can't hide anymore." She pulled out a portable terminal and set it on the table. "We'll crack the rest of the files here. But once we go public, they'll come for us with everything they've got." "Let them come," Jace muttered. "They don't scare me anymore." He placed the chip inside the reader. A humming noise filled the room. Blue light spread across the walls as hundreds of encrypted files opened one by one. There were lab reports, transport schedules, even classified contracts signed by government officials. But one folder made Jace pause. Subject Archive, Rinya 12. He opened it. Inside were medical records, neural scans, DNA files, and video logs. One video began autoplaying. A scientist stood in a bright lab. Test log 56. Subject Rinya 12 has developed rapid healing traits. Emotional reaction still minimal. Memory suppression is holding. Then another clip showed Rinya, younger and thinner, strapped to a chair as electric pulses ran through her arms. She didn't cry. She didn't even scream. Jace turned the screen away and shut his eyes. "How many others?" he asked. Laura clicked through the logs. "At least 40 children. Different species. Some didn't survive. Some were sold. Rinya was the last. They were making living weapons." "Or trying to," Laura replied. But Rinya escaped. She broke their program, and this file proves everything. Jace stood. "Then we leak it, all of it, to every open network, every system." Laura raised an eyebrow. "You know what that means?" Jace looked back at Rinya, who was still sleeping peacefully for the first time since he met her. "It means we give her justice." Laura handed him a coded drive. "Upload, from the Sky Tower. Signal's strongest there, but it's locked down tight. You'll need to break in." "I've done worse," Jace said. An hour later, the three of them stood outside the base of the Sky Tower. The structure rose so high it disappeared into the clouds. It was a government-owned signal point, used for secure transmissions and orbital links. Jace wore a plain coat and a cap. Rinya stood beside him in a long cloak. She had insisted on coming. "I'm not hiding anymore," she said firmly. "If I was strong enough to survive what they did, I'm strong enough to stand beside you." Laura stayed back with a scrambler device ready to jam the tower's sensors. The guards were few, likely not expecting anyone stupid enough to attack a comms tower. But Jace had a plan. They waited for a delivery drone to land. When the security doors opened, they slipped inside. The lower levels were quiet. Only the hum of machines echoed through the halls. Jace led them up a maintenance ladder while Rinya watched every corner, alert and calm. They reached the top room, glass walls showing the entire city from above. Jace moved to the console. "We've got 60 seconds before they trace the signal." He plugged in the drive. Rinya stood beside him and watched as the files began uploading. 12%, 34%, 52%. Suddenly, alarms blared. Security bots dropped from the ceiling. Jace pulled out a shock baton. "I'll hold them. Finish the upload." Rinya ducked beside the console. She used her fingers to adjust the transmitter settings. Her eyes glowed faintly again, but this time with strength, not fear. 76%, 89%. Jace fought off one bot with a hard swing. Sparks flew. Another bot shot a laser that missed by inches. Rinya screamed, "Just a little more!" 99%. The final file pinged. Then, upload complete. The tower lights turned blue. Every system, every station, every device across the city, and even in orbit, received the files, videos, names, proof, secrets. The truth was out. The bots stopped, moving. Then the console beeped again. Incoming message. "Whoever you are, and thank you." Jace smiled. He turned to Rinya. She was crying. Not out of pain, but relief. "You did it," he said. "No," she replied. "We did." Outside, sirens, changed tone. But this time it wasn't for them. It was for the people who had hidden the truth. The city changed overnight. Screens across buildings replayed the footage again and again. Children in cages, lab tests, glowing scars, and names of the scientists behind it all. People gathered in the streets, silent at first, then shouting. Anger boiled through the crowd. Protesters waved signs. News drones circled the towers. The whole galaxy was watching now. Rinya sat on the roof of Laura's workshop, a warm blanket over her shoulders. The wind moved her silver hair gently. For the first time, she didn't feel like hiding. She watched the stars above. Her eyes weren't glowing anymore, not because she was afraid, but because she was finally calm. Jace stepped up beside her with 2 hot drinks. "You okay?" Rinya took the cup and nodded. "The stars don't feel so far now." Jace sat next, to her. "They're still looking for the ones responsible. The ones who ran the labs went into hiding. They'll be found," she said. "They can't hide from everyone anymore." Jace smiled, but there was tiredness in his eyes. "I didn't think all this would happen when I first saw you behind that dumpster." Rinya looked at him. "And I didn't think a human would carry me out of trash and give me hot soup." They both laughed softly. Behind them, Laura climbed the ladder to the roof. She held a small portable screen. "You two are famous now," she said. "Rinya, you're being called the Child of Light on 5 systems." Rinya blinked. "Why?" "You lit the truth for everyone," Laura said. "And now they want you to speak." "Me?" Rinya asked, surprised. Jace leaned forward. "You don't have to if you don't want." Rinya stared at the screen. Her own face looked back at her. Then she looked up at the stars again. "I want to," she said finally. "Not for me. For the others who never made it out." An hour later, the rooftop became a stage. A news drone hovered silently, broadcasting across hundreds of worlds. Rinya stood under the stars, Jace and Laura behind her. She looked into the drone's lens. Her hands trembled, but she took a breath. "My name is Rinya," she said. "I was taken from my family when I was very small. I don't remember my home. I don't know what love felt like. Until now. Her voice was quiet, but steady. They locked me in a cage. They tested me. They hurt others like me. They said I was a thing to study, that I was broken. But I wasn't. I was just a girl. And I never stopped hoping someone would care. She looked at Jace. One human did. He gave me warmth. He gave me food. But more than that, he gave me a voice. The drone zoomed closer. Her glowing eyes reflected the night sky. I know many of you are scared. You think you can't fight, but if I can stand here, then you can too. Don't let them hide what they've done. Don't let them hurt another child again. She paused, then added softly, I am not trash. I am not broken. I am alive, and I am not alone anymore. The drone blinked twice. Transmission ended. The next morning, the city's skies were filled with transport ships, not to attack but to protect. Galactic peacekeepers arrived. Arrests began. Secret labs were raided. Files matched with names and faces. Justice moved. Like a storm, Rinya watched from a balcony. Jace stood beside her, arms crossed. You did it, he said. She looked at him with a small smile. We did. Then her face turned serious. Jace, what happens now? He didn't answer right away. They offered me a job, on a ship that finds and rescues trafficked kids. I'd be part of a team. Rinya looked down. You'll leave? Not unless you come too. Her eyes widened. Me? He nodded. You're stronger than all of us. You know what they went through. You could help them feel safe. Rinya bit her lip. Then she smiled. Okay, I'll go. But only if we bring hot soup with us. Jace laughed. Deal. A week later, a silver rescue ship left the planet. Inside, Jace sat in the pilot's seat. Rinya stood beside him wearing a new jacket and boots. No more rags, no more hiding. She looked at the stars ahead, her heart steady. Where to first? She asked. Jace grinned. Wherever someone needs help. And just like that, they were, conted off to light the stars for someone else.